The gloomy sky filled with black smoke and fire, the city is completely destroyed. There is panic on the streets, because an emergency notification is playing warning of the danger coming. And soon, hiding in various places, people sank their breath, because they are coming. Creepy monsters capable of destroying humanity. This is not a dream or a game. Monsters from many dimensions have made their way into the human world. For thousands of years these monsters existed only in legends, but in the 21st century they began to attack cities, such as now this cruel world. However, there will not be without a hero. On the hill of one of the destroyed skyscrapers, a boy in a hood appeared. At this moment, the spawn from hell was going to eat the boy, who was desperately protected by a faithful dog, and at the same moment the young hero jumped off the building without hesitation, but a creepy monster jumped out of the building at him. The youngster quickly turned around in the air and dealt a crushing blow to a piece of meat, after which he saved the defenseless child and asked him everything is fine. After which a toothy monster rushed at him, but even then the boy did not tolerate such impudence, and wiped the monster off the face of the earth. Soon he dealt with the others, but then a bigger monster appeared and decided to try to trample a small bug, but it turned out to be too much for him. The boy withstood the blow, after which he attacked in response and pierced through the pathetic monster. But soon an unknown figure appears on the building and a second later the guys rush to each other. One thing is known, the reason for everything that is happening is a blue-eyed guy, because the monsters came for him. 8 months ago, an ordinary sunny day. An inconspicuous guy is approaching the school, but immediately he is hit from behind and he falls. Everyone mocked this worthless jerk, and also photographed with him sitting like on a horse. This was how his daily life looked before the awakening of his power. In the dining room, the rest of the guys tried to avoid him in every possible way and he always ate alone. His name is Ha Nero, but everyone calls him Dog Nero. He is a transferred student, as well as an outcast. When he was taking pills, the black-haired man was pushed and his medicine was crushed. The guys can't understand what the hell he's swallowing. Is the kid a drug addict? Once again, he is reminded that he is an orphan and then his gaze goes wild. But the guys do not take it seriously and laugh from a helpless dog. Soon the main bully approaches them and announces that the best medicine is not pills, but physiotherapy. After these words, he begins to beat the boy and stomp on his feet. The guy himself is not particularly bothered by these blows and bruises, but the body does not obey him at all. Anger that should be burning, it seems to be held by rusty chains. Nero cannot move a finger. His heart is overflowing with anger, but a strange force inside, as if, does not allow to give the will to emotions. He wants to get really angry at least once. The guy wants to kill them all. At this moment the big guy does not like the look of the black-haired man and before striking the next blow explains to the kid that he should thank him, because he is given such treatment for free. At this moment, a blonde girl breaks into the fight. She is dissatisfied with what is happening, because of these children's fights she is prevented from pouring a glass of water. The girl's name is Liluna. She is 19 years old. At this moment, the blonde guy begins to glow with joy, because it is a great luck for him to meet such a lovely girl in such a place. After greeting the generous queen properly, he immediately hurries away so as not to interfere with her. After that, the confused guys leave the crime scene and leave the beaten guy alone. Standing over Nero, a minute of silence reigned, after which the boy quietly got up and walked away with his head down, stepping on his own pills. He no longer cares. Liluna held the poor guy's gaze and later paid attention to the pills. It surprised her. Soon the guy, lost in thought, climbed the roof of the educational institution. Bullying is ubiquitous, but it's only getting worse today, and he can't change anything because of his own weakness. Everyone in the yard looks carefree. They are enjoying their school days, while he is tirelessly suffering and wants to end it all. Suddenly, a message from his grandmother comes to his mobile phone in which she asks her grandson what he wants for lunch. She is his last ray in this life. He is visited by happy memories of her, because for the sake of him alone, a woman would not regret 10 lives. She is very glad that her grandson has become a wonderful young man. Nero is distracted from childhood memories by a classmate. He asks the guy to come down as soon as possible, as it is dangerous. This guy's name is Jang Yong. The black-haired one is in a hurry to calm the diligent youngster by simply admiring the view. Jung Yong only talks to him when no one is around. That's fine. After all, otherwise he would have been treated exactly like a black-haired man. Soon Nero descends and passes by a friendly friend. The same one tries to shout to the boy, but he silently leaves his company. Soon he comes to his classroom and lies down on his desk, whether the moon is watching all this. At the same time, Everyone else in the office is looking at a mysterious photo from their last trip to Jeonju. They notice a strange creature in the picture and take it for a ghost. Late at night, a red monster climbs out of this brick building and putting on his skin, he raves about some key that he has to find, after which he sets off on his way. Sunset, the guy cleans his bruises with cream. During the process he hears his grandmother's voice and quickly hiding all the evidence. The beaten kid hides under the blanket. The old lady looks into the room and wonders if Nero is going to sleep already. He should have eaten first, but the guy declares that he has already eaten with friends. At this moment the woman notices plasters and cream peeking out from under the blanket. Then closing the door she asks to invite them to visit sometime. She promises to make sure to cook something delicious. After she left, the guy looks out from under the blanket and reproaches himself for having to lie to his beloved grandmother. The woman at the same time began to wash her grandson's dirty things and with a tremor in her hands notices a dirty boot mark on his shirt. At night, a mysterious figure appears near the house and soon she runs to the blue truck. The man in it blithely rejoices that he needs to visit one house, after which he can freely go home. But turning to the window he sees a creepy monster in front of him that requires skin. The next day, Grandma cooks breakfast for her granddaughter from early in the morning. Clear weather is broadcast on the news and they talk about a low concentration of dust in the air. At the same time Nero does not know what to do with her face, because it is very swollen, and if Grandma sees it, she will be very shocked. At this moment, the woman calls the guy. Because he's going to school soon, she invites him to the table. But the black-haired man refuses. First he wants to take a shower. Suddenly the doorbell rang. The boy went to the door and saw the delivery man arriving behind the door, after which he opens the door and goes to the shower. Standing in front of the mirror, he observes numerous bruises on his pathetic body. At this time, a man in uniform enters the apartment and insistently runs to the woman, but instead of the deliverer, she observes a creepy monster disguised in a uniform. At the same time, the monster declares that he has found what he was looking for and attacks the old woman, from which she falls to the floor. But this does not stop the monster, and he attacks the defenseless woman, but she successfully dodges. Her mood has changed dramatically, and she is upset that these monsters have come again. After that, a red pattern appears on her face, and a mysterious force escapes from her hand, with the help of which she immobilizes the demon in a second and brings him terrible pain with a small wave of her hand. She had warned them to stop looking. But the monster continues to say something about the key, and with the words that he will look for it until he finds it, breaks out of the woman's trap and arranges a pogrom in the apartment. The guy in the bathroom hears some noise in the house and turns off the water, but at this moment the old lady completely binds the monster and asks him to be quieter. Then Nero decides what he thought and continues to wash. The fight in the apartment continues. The monster throws the woman away from him and rushes at her with his huge mouth open, but Grandma does not lose her cool and uses an incredible ability to finish the fight faster. But the guy definitely heard some kind of rumble and decides to look out of the tub and asks what happened. At that moment, his grandmother was standing over a creepy monster, but the guy didn't see anything because of the shampoo that got into his eyes. At the same time, the woman hurries to calm her grandson and says that it's the TV noise, because lately her hearing has weakened, so she has to listen at high volume, and so nothing special happened. Then the guy closes the door. He's glad that everything is fine, otherwise he was afraid that Grandma fainted again. At this time, the old woman sighs with relief she was blown away, but the helpless monster begins to laugh maliciously and brazenly declares that a woman can run as much as she wants. But it's all useless, he breaks off at this phrase, because the old woman mercilessly took off his damn head. After that, the remains of the monster begin to turn into ashes. At this time, the guy continues to admire in the mirror and notices that the swelling has subsided while he was taking a shower, but still he is ashamed to appear at breakfast in this form. The old lady thinks the same way. She should hide the scratch from her grandson, and in general clean up. The two don't know what to say to each other. Soon physical education classes begin. The black-haired one lags behind the whole group and runs the very last, but he doesn't care. He thinks that his grandmother's face was very thoughtful. It feels like something is bothering her, because she didn't even say anything last. But soon he realizes that he needs to put these thoughts aside and concentrate, because he does not want to be left behind, so he should run faster. He is sure that he can handle it, but he wonders if the field has always been so big. At this moment, the coach turns around and sees that Nero has lost consciousness. He tries to reach the guy, but he does not react to the words, and then the physical teacher demands to take him to the medical center immediately. At the same time, the boy's eyes roll up, he looked at the blue sky, but soon a terrible sunset with dozens of different creatures appeared before his eyes. Also a mysterious figure runs through dark corridors and jumps into a whirlpool, but a mysterious force follows the unknown in a cloak. At this moment, the black-haired man wakes up, he immediately recognizes the medical room, and he also has a crazy headache. He sees this strange dream every time he loses consciousness, but he does not even guess what it means. At that moment, the phone rang in his right pocket, and it was his grandmother who called him. He picks up the phone without hesitation and is surprised. Because they are moving, the woman asks the guy to come early and pack his things. His grandmother is always running, and he doesn't know why, but it's always been that way, even in his childhood. And even as a child, he was despised by the other guys, and the girls even whispered behind his back. He was always an outcast and was transferred from one school to another from time to time. The old lady notices that monsters have begun to appear more and more often, and she does not know how long she will be able to drive away the monsters and how much longer she will be able to protect her beloved grandson. At the same time, at one of the landfills, another creepy spawn breaks out of the refrigerator. But not only there, they also appear from ancient buildings. The night forest is teeming with monsters. At the same time, a peasant in a blue car rides carelessly along the highway, but suddenly a red-eyed creature appears in front of him and, frightened, the man gets into an accident, after which a dozen terrifying monsters attack the car. In the morning, in the parking lot, one of the postal workers feeds a stray cat and wonders why this cat is interested in food from the trash. Because a man feeds him good food every day. At this time, a blue truck is parked and the cat feels something is wrong. Frightened, he scratches the worker and runs away. He is very puzzled, because that's all he got for his kindness and care. At this time, something strange begins to happen. All the animals in the nearest building have gone berserk, and he also observes a strange worker who goes to the trunk of the car and releases something from there. At breakfast, the kid hears loud barking and wonders if all the dogs have gone crazy. The woman turns her head warily, then gets up from the table and drives her grandson to study. But he is in no hurry because it's still early. But the woman is persistent and asks him to go, because she has her urgent business, and after that she actually pushes him out of the apartment by force. After leaving the house, the guy notices that the dogs abruptly stop talking, and in general he was interested in what had come over his grandmother, some strange morning. Soon the elevator doors opened and at least a dozen delivery men came out. But why are there so many of them? They passed by Nero, and at the same time he felt a strange, but at the same time familiar smell. Although it does not matter, he is interested in where they are going. At this moment, the black-haired man is distracted by a man and asks the boy whether he enters the elevator or not. Being in the elevator, he did not stop thinking that something was wrong here. At the same time, the so-called deliverers were already standing at the right apartment and ringing the intercom, but death was waiting for them outside the door. The guy walks through the parking lot and notices that the trunk door of the official car is open, but looking inside he notices that there is not a single parcel inside. So why did so many workers were sent here? At this moment, he hears the sound of broken glass and raising his head, he notices that this is happening in his own apartment. A deliveryman flew out of the window. The boy was frightened by this phenomenon, but he did not have time to take care of the victim, because the grandmother could be in danger, so he calls a passerby for help, and he runs back home. The elevator didn't work and Nero decides to go up the stairs, but there are disturbing thoughts in his head, because he didn't understand what the hell was going on here. At the same time, there is a fierce struggle with monsters in the apartment. The old woman concentrates and releases her mysterious power, after which the monsters fly into small pieces. The dead disappear into thin air, but that's not all. One of the demons strikes the old woman, but it does not cause much damage and soon someone kills the monster, and the same mysterious attack flies at the woman. The woman's name is Sana. The stranger warns her that resistance is useless, because the king's troops will be here very soon. But the grandmother does not want to listen to these threats and begins an attack. Soon she grabs the undead by the throat and declares that the creature is talking some nonsense, because the king's troops will not be able to crawl out of their hole. From these words, the monster becomes enraged and breaks out of the woman's trap. In a fit of anger, he demands San to open the entrance for them and give them the key. Granny accelerates and in a moment hangs a creepy monster and asks him who their king is. At that moment, the boy had almost reached his apartment. The monster does not give up and demands that the old hag give him the key, but she mercilessly strangles the monster and declares that she does not have any key and the entrance to this world will remain sealed forever. At this moment, the woman hears how the handle door starts to turn, and quickly reacting to this, she manages to close the door from her grandson. But the woman made a big mistake. You should never turn away during the battle. The same is used by the ruthless monster, and punches the old lady through. The kid clearly heard someone screaming, and even more begins to break into the house. But the fight did not end there. The hag managed to tear off the monster's arm and equalize their position in battle. The undead repeats that Sana's attempts are futile. But the old lady tries to explain her position to the soulless monster, because he does not understand why she resists. The answer to all this is that she wants them to just be left alone. The demon is surprised. Once a woman was the head of the guard, but something made her give up such an honorary title. Is it really all about this child outside the door? After what she heard, the woman got really angry. So it's really about him, because he just mentioned him. The monster declares that if the king finds out about the boy, he does not have time to finish the sentence, and Sana grabs the creature by the head. And she is seriously interested in how he found out this secret, and asks him to tell about it since he is going to die anyway. Meanwhile, the guard passes by the building and looks for the one who fell according to eyewitnesses. But he does not notice anything strange and decides that apparently someone was just joking. The kid continues to knock on the door, and behind him a monster climbs onto the balcony. At the same time, hell was raging in the apartment. The woman understands that they should leave as soon as possible, otherwise the monsters will descend again. At this moment, the door to the apartment opens, and turning her head, she sees a creepy monster that captured her grandson. She demands the monster to let the boy go, because he is an ordinary person, but the monster notices the opposite. The boy is no longer an ordinary person, because he is important to her. But she continues to insist that the monster let the child go, and then she promises to give what they so desire. But the monster is familiar with the cunning nature of the hag and first of all demands a key, otherwise. With these words he bleeds the boy. The wounded woman immediately goes into a rage, but when she sees the worried face of her grandson, she calms down. After that, the spawn of hell cuts off her hand. Enro begins to scream from what he sees and then bites into the flesh of the monster and tears off pieces of its fabric. At the same time, the monster throws the impudent man into the wall and spits out blood. A worried woman runs to help her grandson, but immediately blood splatters the young man's face. Before his eyes, a monster pierced his last joy in this life, namely his grandmother. After what he saw, the kid throws his backpack off his shoulders and runs furiously at the monster with his fists. But he is immediately killed in the wake of the old woman. After the work done, the monster laughs, because what a disappointment the head of the guard, a woman named Sana, showed her back to her enemy because of some pathetic little man. At the same moment, the monster felt incredible pressure. He experienced the fear of death for the first time. Turning around, he saw an old woman behind him, and with one wave of her hand she causes a billion red spears and wraps them around a miserable monster, and when he is completely in the embrace of red threads, the woman clenches her fist and turns the creature into mincemeat. Half of which, exhausted, she falls to her knees, and soon her warm blood touches her own grandson. This was the beginning of the long and terrible days. Loud prayers resounded through the land. The mountains were ablaze with fire, and the rivers overflowed with blood. At the same time, Sanu was asked to take care of Nero and leave faster, after which she throws herself into the water. The boy falls into the darkness, but someone insistently asks him not to die, because he must survive, but the guy does not recognize the voice that calls him, but he definitely heard it somewhere before. After that, childhood memories pop up in front of him. In them he beat the yard boy, because he said that Nero did not have a mother, and he lived with his grandmother. After what he heard, he wanted to strike again, but the mother of the victim arrived in time and grabbed the insolent man by the ear, after which she gave her father's broom. She chastises the youngster, because what kind of upbringing is this? After that, she took her crying son and repeated again that one should not play with such children. And Nero himself began to cry. At the same time, the grandmother hugged the lifeless body of her beloved grandson, after which she bent down and began to sob.